Hey, ChatGPT, write me a Sjögren Summit speech. If only it were that easy, and no shame, I'll admit that I tried. But I quickly figured out that no AI will ever know what it's like to sit in stirrups after 30 years of undiagnosed issues and be told, you should just try having another baby to give your vagina a fresh start. But also, no app will ever understand the relief, the sense of validation, and the weight that lifts when someone finally listens, when you finally find someone who gets it, and when you finally find your community. So, yes, I had to write this speech myself, but believe me, imposter syndrome was fully upgraded to a disease these last couple weeks while preparing this speech. I kept asking myself, why me? Why would anyone want to hear what I have to say? Or what could I possibly offer that would be meaningful and make any real impact? I'm not a doctor. I'm not an influencer. I don't have fancy initials after my last name like MD or PhD. And though I have been tempted to sign my name, Courtney Whitney, PP, professional patient, I'm really pretty average. I'm a full-time working mom of two kids, dog mom of many, and I married my middle school sweetheart that I met even before Grey's Anatomy ever aired. So, what could I possibly say that matters up here? But after some thought, what I quickly figured out is that there are two words that connect all of us today. Two words that have had me crying in the shower. Two words that have made me question my sanity even more than doctors have. And two words that, ironically enough, brought me a sense of community, validation, and hope. Those two words that bring us all here together today. Sjogren's disease. Whether you're here because you treat it, have it, love someone who does, or are just starting to understand what it means, those two words link all of us. I'll be the first to admit I'm not here today as some polished keynote speaker, and honestly, I really struggled to write this speech until I finally asked myself, what do I wish someone had said to me? What do I wish I could hear someone say out loud? And I realized that the most powerful thing anyone has ever said to me wasn't, you're going to be okay, or you should be grateful it's not worse, or, well, at least you don't look sick. The most powerful thing anyone has ever said to me was, I get it. If I'm no one else to you, if you forget my name, my face, or even my Instagram handle, I hope you remember this, that there are people out there who get it. Because as supportive as our friends, family, spouses, and even the occasional doctor can be, not many people get it like we do. Unless you find a unicorn, and in this case, her name is Dr. Kara Wada. She also happens to be the reason we're all here today. So thank you so much, Dr. Kara, for having me and for bringing us all together for this wonderful event. But what I would have wanted someone to say to me, and what the rest of this speech is really about, is that I get it. Growing up, we're taught to idolize three people: your preacher, your lawyer, and your doctor, because they're educated, they've got degrees, the titles, the authority, and who are you to question them? So when doctors told me it's probably just stress, I smiled and swallowed it like a diagnosis. I even took it as a compliment when they said, "Oh, you're too young to be in this much pain," or "You're too pretty to be this sick." As if compliments canceled out my symptoms, and as if looking okay on the outside meant my body wasn't falling apart on the inside. Let me be very clear on something. Looking healthy doesn't mean you're healthy. Looking healthy doesn't mean you're safe. Sometimes looking healthy means you'll be erased. Because when you don't look sick, you're not seen as someone who needs help. You're seen as someone who's exaggerating. You don't get the care that you deserve. Instead, you get questioned, doubted, dismissed, and discharged. And over time, you start to do those exact same things to yourself. You stop pushing for answers. You shrink your questions, you space out appointments, and you start to wonder, am I imagining this? Is it really that bad? Maybe I am making this up. And that right there, that is the most dangerous part of all of this. Not the disease, but the doubt. Since I can remember, I was convinced I was dying or that I had some sort of secret, undiscovered illness. We can trace my Sjogren symptoms all the way back to as young as when I was 3 years old. As a kid, I had constant nosebleeds. I was nauseous all the time. Doctors called it anxiety, behavioral, attention seeking. And I'll never forget, there was a time I threw up in my mom's purse at Toys R Us, and a doctor told her I just made myself do it to get a toy. I had UTI after UTI, bladder infection after bladder infection. So they sent me to an OB as a child. One doctor suggested that I was most likely experiencing abuse because how else could a little girl have those kinds of symptoms? I had a sore throat that never seemed to go away, so they referred me to an ENT. My tonsils were so inflamed, so swollen, that one doctor looked down my throat and actually asked if I had swallowed a pair of testicles, and then deemed that my tonsils were too large to remove. Instead of treating or even investigating the cause, he handed me a prescription for allergy meds and sent me on my way. Then came the skin issues. With even the lightest touch, my skin would immediately welt up like I'd been branded like cattle. Cue the referral to a dermatologist. He ran a full allergy panel, and when nothing came back, his solution was simple: stop scratching and put her in a bubble. He joked. He handed me a bottle of anti itch lotion and prescribed a second allergy pill and sent me on my way. In gym class, I never sweat. Teachers accused me of not working hard enough, that one even strapped a heart rate monitor on me for an entire semester so she could prove I wasn't trying. When it showed my pulse was through the roof, I still got labeled as dramatic and accused of somehow faking the results. When it came time to go to college, I figured maybe a change of scenery would help. So I packed up my Midwestern roots and moved to Florida, hoping the palm trees could do what doctors hadn't. And let me just say, Florida did not help. Because when your body doesn't sweat, Florida isn't paradise, it's a punishment. They tested me for mono so many times at the campus clinic. I swear I hold a world record. And when it wasn't mono, the question was always, well, could you be pregnant? And when it wasn't pregnancy, they told me that it was about time I lay off the boys and the booze. Fast forward after college, and I remember one day waking up in the morning and actually feeling better. I was energized, no headaches, no nausea. It honestly felt like I'd waken up in a brand new body. That was the day I found out I was pregnant with our daughter. But after my daughter was born, that short lived respite vanished. And what followed was 6 straight years of chronic vaginal infections. I mean, can't sit down, can't put down, razor blade fire ant invasion 24/7, burning, itching, stabbing in your underwear. Doctors just kept throwing treatments at it, like, let's try this again anyway. Maybe your husband's cheating on you. Let's run another STI panel to find out. I tried everything. Every cream, every pill, every procedure, every pelvic floor specialist I could find. And then 6 years in, with my sixth OB, he looked me straight in the face and said, completely serious, you should probably consider having another baby to give your vagina a fresh start. And I was so desperate, he took my IUD out that day, and we did. We had our son. And sure enough, the moment my son was born, everything came roaring back. In one last burst of desperation, I made a Hail Mary appointment with someone new. But the moment I stepped into her exam room, something felt different. She had this giant magnifying glass strapped to her head like a jeweler. She had microscopes on every counter, and the vibe was much more old school science lab than modern OB clinic. At one point, I genuinely looked around and thought, like, where's Ashton Kutcher? Like, am I being punked? Before even asking me to gown up, she started asking questions about everything. And somewhere between explaining my lip balm and my eating habits, she looked me straight in the face and said, I think you have Sjogren's disease. I just stared at her, waiting for the punchline, half expecting her to say it was just another fancy medical term for being a hypochondriac. She rolled over her stool to her microscope and turned the screen towards me and said, "Let me show you." She then had me gown up and did a vaginal scrape right there in the room, swabbed my cells onto a plate, and placed it under a microscope, and told me to take a look for myself. My cells were shriveled, dried out. It looked like a kindergartner tried to draw a flower with a crayon that was broken. And she said, "This isn't an infection. This is dryness. This is Sjögren's." And she started explaining what Sjögren's really is, that it's an autoimmune disease where the body attacks its own moisture producing glands and it can impact every part of you. There's no cure, she said. But in that same breath, she said, "I'm going to help you through this." Honestly, I barely registered the part about there being no cure because in that moment, all I felt was relief. I'd walked into her office on 12 prescriptions and I walked out with none. I didn't walk out empty handed, though. I walked out with a plan. My instructions were to go to a grocery store, pick up coconut oil, baking soda, and Florigen probiotics, to then focus on gut health, to support my body instead of just suppressing my symptoms. She explained to me that inflammation isn't just a symptom, it is a signal. She didn't just name my disease, she gave me a way forward. She treated me as a whole person. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel broken. I didn't feel invisible. I didn't feel crazy. I felt seen. And honestly, how messed up is that? That getting diagnosed with a chronic, incurable disease felt like a victory. That after being dismissed for so long, just being believed felt like a win. I remember walking out of her office thinking I deserved a flash mob, confetti, t shirt cannons, a parade of nurses high fiving me down the hallway. Because after 30 years of gaslighting and guesswork, I finally had answers. Slowly, after heeding her advice and guidance, I started to feel good. Not just like I was surviving, but that I was actually living for the first time in my life. And for the next 2 years, I thrived. My symptoms were under control, my skin cleared, my energy was up, and I had built a rhythm that actually worked. It all finally felt manageable. Was it a lot of maintenance? Absolutely. But for the first time, it didn't all feel pointless. And a huge part of that was her. She didn't just give me a diagnosis, she gave me a partner, a helpline, and a resource I could actually rely on. She saved my life and she gave me clarity, stability, and a sense of control I hadn't ever felt my 31 years of life. I swear I was going to hold myself together, people. And then, like a punch to the gut, only 2 years after my diagnosis, she announced her retirement. And while I was still reeling from that, the next curveball hit. My company announced a mandatory return to office policy. I've been working remotely since 2020, building a life around routines and rhythms that help me manage this disease. Working from home wasn't some cushy benefit. It was the only way I could stay regulated, functional, and sane. I was able to submit an accommodation request to keep working from home, and she wrote the most thoughtful, detailed letter to support it. She explained my symptoms, the day to day realities of living with Sjogren's, and why being able to control my environment was critical. That letter went before a corporate medical review board, and it was approved. And just a few weeks after that, I was laid off. No warning, no explanation, just a corporate restructure. I was right back where I started. No care team, no coverage, no plan, just me managing a complex disease with nothing but guidance my doctor had given me up until that point. So I did what every desperate patient eventually does. I turned to Google, to Reddit, to Facebook groups and forums, and late night rabbit holes filled with contradictions and chaos, miracle cures, detox scams, and a whole lot of noise. I wasn't looking for magic pills. I wasn't looking for a cure in a bottle or a pitch from someone's cousin's brother's essential oil side hustle. I just wanted the truth. I wanted to hear from real people, real stories, people who actually knew what Sjogren's was. And maybe, if I was really lucky, they even knew how to spell it. But when I couldn't find it, I just took a chance and created it. I opened an Instagram account and called it Sjogren's Girls Guide. Just a tiny corner of the internet where I could be honest, where I could say things that no one talks about in exam rooms, and where I could finally stop pretending I was fine. At first, it was just small posts, vent sessions, quiet observations, raw moments, and symptoms I thought that was the only one in the world dealing with. And then one day, someone commented, IYKYK. I had no idea what that meant, and I actually had to Google it. But when I read the words, if you know, you know, something clicked. Suddenly, I wasn't screaming into the void anymore. This was my space. These were my people. This was my community. These were the people who got it. And that changed everything. You know, the things that sound completely insane to anyone else, but in your head, there's just no better way to explain it. But then you find someone who hears you and says, oh my gosh, exactly. Yes, girl, I get it. And suddenly you're not crazy and you're not alone. That's what this is. And that's the gift that the Sjogren's Girls Guide community gave me. Not a cure, not a fix, but a space where I didn't have to explain myself. A space where I could go and just say, if you know, you know. And people actually did. What it's like to peel your eyelids open in the morning because they glued shut overnight. What it's like to carry so much in your purse you could easily be Mary Poppins understudy. Sjogren's guys, I don't know how you function on just pockets, but kudos to you. What it's like to be told it's just a yeast infection while it still feels like razor blades and fire ants have invaded your lady garden. What it's like to take a bite of food and wonder, is that a bone or another piece of my tooth? What it's like when your nose runs and it's a 50-50 shot whether or not it's snot or blood. What it's like every single day to feel like you're fighting not to split open, both physically as your skin cracks and emotionally as you carry the weight of all of this inside you. If you know, you know. This disease is brutal and it breaks you open in ways you never expected. But not being alone, that changed everything for me. And that's what built this Sjogren's Girls Guide community. Because sometimes the best answers don't come from a textbook. They come from someone in Oklahoma or Spain that messages and says, yes, that exact same thing. I've felt that too. When I started asking for help, people started showing up, not with judgment, but with suggestions, with love, with lived experience. The kind of little things that saved me from hours of trial and error and guinea pigging my way through every product on the internet. A place to pass on the things that helped. A place to share what we've learned the hard way so maybe someone else doesn't have to. The place to vent about things no one else on the planet can understand. A place to have people say, if you know, you know. And let's just say it, this is hard. We're told to be fine, but we're anything but. We're told to be consistent with our meds, our routines, our protocols, but also be flexible and adaptable when our bodies randomly shift or when a supplement that worked for 6 months just stops. We're expected to look put together even when our skin is literally cracking at the seams. Because this disease doesn't just hit your glands, it hits your everything, your marriage, your friendships, your finances, your confidence, your job, your parenting, your ability to be intimate, to make plans, to function like everyone else seems to do just fine. It changes how you think, how you rest, how you breathe, how you exist. And honestly, it's no wonder so many of us are trauma bonded to all these medical dramas like Grey's Anatomy, The Resident, The Good Doctor, The Pit. Because at least there, Someone listens. Sure, it's fiction. Sure, the doctors all look like Calvin Klein models with six packs. Side note, I've never had a doctor look like that, but if you have, we definitely need to talk. But it's not even about the abs. It's about imagining a world where someone takes one look at your chart and says, "Oh my God, I see it. I believe you. I've got you." And it's fantasy, but it shouldn't be. Let's talk about bras for a minute. Just bear with me. I know it sounds like a weird segue, but trust me, we're going to go somewhere with this. And if you're a Sjogren's guy, pretend it's a jockstrap. I can't speak from personal experience, but I imagine it's just as uncomfortable. So, this is a virtual summit. So, please only do this if you're safe and seated. Don't close your eyes if you're driving or chopping vegetables or wrestling a toddler. But if you're somewhere quiet, somewhere still, please just go ahead and close your eyes. Picture this. There's a bucket in front of you. That bucket holds every single heavy thing you've been carrying. I want you to start pulling each of those things out one by one and picture yourself shoveling them into your bra or your jockstrap. Again, I can't speak for storage logistics, but do your best, gentlemen. Every single memory, every single hardship, every single moment you've carried alone, I want you to take out of the bucket and put it in the bra. The doctor who's told you it's just anxiety in the bra. The insurance denial that made you cry in the CVS parking lot in the bra. The birthday party you missed because you couldn't get out of bed in the bra. The $300 eye drops that burned like fire and didn't help? Yeah, in the bra. The appointment you waited 8 months for just to be told your labs are normal? In the bra. The friend who stopped texting back after the third time you canceled plans? In the bra. The grief of not being the parent or the partner you dreamed of being? In the bra. The PTO meeting you volunteered for, even though you didn't have enough PTO to cover your next appointment. The side effects, the second opinions, the ER visits, the gaslighting, the school pickup breakdown in the bra until you physically can't carry it anymore because you were never meant to carry this much. You were never meant to carry all of this alone. But right now, with me, take a deep breath and take it off. Like literally, like let it go. Unhook it, pull it off, breathe. Let it drop down to the floor with everything you just shoved inside. Feel that release. Feel your ribs expand. Feel your lungs fill. Feel your shoulders drop for the first time all day as you let go of the medical bills, the boss, the fight with your mom, the grudge with your spouse, the email from that a-hole customer asking the impossible, the laundry piling up, the to-do list that keeps on going when you're pretty sure you can't do anymore. This disease, my God, this damn disease. Take it off. Because that right there, that's what this community is. Is someone whispering, "I've got you. I get it. I see you." Yes, queen, you're not crazy. You don't have to carry this alone anymore. We've got this together. There's a Hawaiian tradition for saying goodbye to someone you love, and it's not just a farewell, it's a full body forgiveness practice. You say, "I love you. Thank you. I forgive you. Please forgive me." For the longest time, I thought that was something you only said to someone else. But what I've learned is that sometimes you have to say it to yourself. I love you. I love you for surviving, for waking up today, for being here even when it's brutal. Thank you. Thank you for what your body still tries to do, for holding it together when no one else sees the cracks. I forgive you. I forgive you for the days you couldn't keep up, for the moments you lost your cool, for the versions of yourself you're still grieving. And please forgive me Please forgive me for the way you've spoken to yourself, for the pressure you've carried, and for not listening sooner. Say it on the hard days, the high pain days, the mascara streaked, soul weary days. Say it on the days you cancel plans, the day you parent from the couch, the days you wonder if you're broken. Say it especially when it feels awkward. And say it because you deserve peace. Say it because healing isn't linear, but self love can be intentional. You're allowed to grieve what was, but you're also allowed to love what still is. You were never invisible. They just weren't looking hard enough. Thank you so much.